Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and here we are for my most painful match yet. This one hurt, but it was very well done. It was very solid. It was a good game overall. So let's get started. It's probably gonna take a while. So he leads off king pawn, and I do what I've become accustomed to do, Caro Kann. And the last couple of times we've seen people push, we've seen people take, and both of those are circumstances that I like. When they don't take and they don't push and they end up developing something else, not that bishop. That's what I don't like as much. It's not obviously bad for either one of us. I'm just not as comfortable with it. I can't bring my bishop out to a nice little home square, or really either one of them, as they're both guarded. This bishop is still blocked in, this horse is blocked in, so it's a little, it's not very optimal. And I really don't like pushing this pawn up here to free my dark squared bishop and block my light squared bishop in before he can move, which is why I like when they push. It allows me to move up there and then release the hounds. But this guy didn't choose to do that, and after some thinking I thought, you know what, I'm gonna block him in there anyway. I'm probably gonna end up pushing this guy so I can push this guy, and that'll fianchetto him and get him available as well. So I figured, let's just get this dark square bishop out as fast as I can. I'll seal my light square bishop in for now, and I'll just have to deal with it. So that's what I do. And oops, do I have? No, I don't. Okay. So that's just how I decided to go this time. And he immediately seals it off, preventing my knight from jumping up into the game. I feel like it might be a little bit too early, but I guess I can't really attack that pawn with my knight after all just yet. I could hilariously attack it with the queen if I really wanted to, but that's not going to happen. That's a bad move. So he further limits my space right at the very start, and that puts me into reverse Queen's Gambit mode, really. Normally I like to keep this dark pawn here when I push that up to attack his. And then once they take, then I thrust forward and I get total control of the center, and I open everything up and I discover attack on his pawn over there. That's usually the way I like to do it, but in this case I'm just going to open that up now, so he knows that if he takes it, I get it right back immediately with tempo and development. So I know he's not going to whatsoever, and that kind of gives me some time to use that square to further up my knight and maybe shore up my other pieces as well, kind of get them all playing around a little bit longer. It does, however, open up a hole to my king, and like we saw in the last, or not the last video, but a recent video, I debated between which one of these two options is better, and at that particular game I chose the horse, and at the end of the day I thought, you know what, I think doing it with the bishop is a little bit stronger. I felt like that's how it went. It also put the opponent into more of a position where if he didn't make certain moves after that, then he was going to lose a piece regardless. So it gives me a little bit of an extra offensive trap as well. But in this case, I prefer the bishop for another extra reason. This bishop got blocked in. This bishop is worthless right now. It has no plans of doing anything remotely soon. It's going to take a while before this bishop becomes relevant. So if I can move this guy out and then get these bishops to trade, that's great, because his bishop wasn't worthless. His bishop had two great little homes right over here where he could operate and save him for later, and my bishop sucked, so he's trading a good bishop for a bad bishop right here, and I am totally okay with that. Makes the trades, my queen responds accordingly, and we proceed to develop further beyond that. I bring my horse out, and then he castles. So I left a couple extra turns of him hoping to take this pawn, but at this point, now that I've got my other minor pieces out, my horse still can't capture over, or can't move up over here, and I don't want to block my dark squared bishop in. I kind of have reached critical mass at this point. I can't help it anymore. I have to just take it over. It's not like it's a bad move. It's not like it's something it's not good. I don't want to do it, and guess I have to now. Obviously, I'm taking a pawn, making it more centralized, removing his defense of his other central pawn. It's obviously a good move. I was just hoping to get a slightly bigger advantage by getting the tempo along with it. It didn't happen, so be it. It probably won't happen very often as I start playing better people now too. So he takes that pawn back immediately, and that strands this pawn over here as well. It's not the most ideal square. The knight is completely undefended. He's got a couple of ways he could attack it right now. But I figure, if I just take the pawn and if I just bounce right back and then move my other horse up, and my bishop has a couple of great squares to go to, then fantastic, whatever. I take a pawn, you have no center pawns. and I'll just play defense from here on out, and I should be okay, as long as I don't make a blunder. So he brings out the rook, and I'm thinking about how I want to defend it. I guess I could defend with my bishop, but then he's probably going to bring his bishop over here, and at that point, if we do some trades, I'm also blocking my line of sight to this pawn with the queen, and so maybe there's something later on where if he takes, I can't take back because the rook has my pawn pinned. Not quite sure how that's going to work. I'm also thinking, well, maybe if I just pin one of these horses, it can't do anything, just trade this dark squared bishop out, maybe I can get him to double his pawns or something like that, and just kind of clean up shop a little bit. Or if I just bounce my knight back here, I'm attacking his developed piece when my guy already took, and then if he opts to just make the trade, I have two options of how I want to trade it. I can, further center a pawn over here and get one nice long pawn chain again, or I can take it over with my queen, get her nice and centralized and attacking some of his weaker squares as well. Either one of those is a good option. So I figure, you know what, I'll just go with that. It lets my bishop stay versatile, gives it some opportunity to pick where it wants to go later. He ends up bringing a bishop over, defending this horse since I'm attacking his, and that would put him in a nice spot as well, attacking one of my little weak squares. If this bishop is ever to move, which obviously it's going to, this guy is not going to have a shield. So I now get a chance at least to bring my knight out since this pawn is gone. That blocks the direct line of sight to this G pawn over there. And he now brings out his queen to further some pressure against this horse if there are some trades that are going to happen, and further some pressure on this pawn since it kind of has a discovered pin going on with his rook. It just starts to coordinate a couple of his pieces, gets everything open, connects his rooks, allows his other rook to come down in here, and he's got some good offense going on right now. And for whatever reason, I don't remember why I chose this. I know I was thinking about it a lot. I was thinking, well, maybe if I go here and well, let's just, if I go there, maybe, take, I don't know, maybe he goes there, and then I'm looking, take, I don't know, that doesn't do what I'm thinking. If I jump up and he pushes out, then maybe I can take here and he takes there, and I take and he gets a center pawn back. I'm not quite sure why I was afraid of, oops. Yeah, there we go. I'm not quite sure why I was afraid of his bishop going here. I guess I figure maybe if I come after it, he's not afraid of the doubled pawn, and maybe he goes down over there. To which then I want to bring my bishop back here to defend this guy because I don't want a doubled pawn on my king side. So I guess, maybe I could just defend here and then worry about pushing up. I'm not quite sure. If I defend there, then that kind of controls how I'm taking on those squares as well. It might not be as optimal. I don't know, but for whatever reason, it really made me worried that was going to be the play. So I ended up pushing my pawn up to shut that square down. And I don't really know. I really don't remember why I did that. He develops his other rook, gets both of them barreling down these open or half-open center files, and now I bring my bishop over, giving me availability to castle on either side, but probably not on this side because of the open line. Excuse me. Plus, then it also puts my rook kind of a little bit blocked in, but so be it. So I finally go over here. Maybe I can get a doubled pawn going on this side, or just make things ugly. Maybe he'll defend it by doing something awkward. Maybe he'll want to push his bishop back. Maybe he thinks that'd be okay. I'm not quite sure. He chooses to take this time now to take my horse down here. I guess he reached critical mass of having that opportunity sit there for either one of us. It does also put the pressure on. If for whatever reason I decided not to take it or whatever, he's attacking my bishop, I guess. Maybe that's forcing me to make this first as opposed to make this first. It's whatever. So my only thought now is which one of these would I rather take it with? Would I prefer the longer pawn chain where I can slowly march this pawn up here and have a nice little, cut the board in half diagonal kind of deal? Look at it makes a nice little ramp. Or maybe I want to take it with the queen so I can further come down on these pieces, which if I make a trade over here might not be as defended and might be easier to pick off. But I end up taking it with the bishop first, because I wanted to get that doubled pawn while I could. Since there's nothing immediately threatening the horse is going to do, I'll leave that there for now, and this is more threatening than anything he can do for an immediate one turn. So I know he's going to respond to it by doubling the pawn, and that gives me time to take it now, and now I'm threatening a nice unprotected pawn with my queen. And for whatever reason, my brain thought that he would defend it with this bishop right here. Probably because when I was envisioning all of these trades, he still had the horses on these squares, so I was thinking the bishop had to go here to defend it. And so for whatever reason, I was still thinking that. But no, the bishop makes a much, much better positional play, attacking down on my horse, and now I'm just like, crap. Obviously it's defended by the pawn, but I do not want to open that up and double that and ruin my castle. I could still castle this way, it's just not nearly as enticing. And there's nothing I can do in one turn to get here. The queen is on a light square, there's a piece in the way. If I push this up, then he just takes it, with whichever piece he feels like taking it with. There's no way for me to immediately defend this horse. You know, I can't reach a diagonal on him, no matter where I'm trying to go. The queen can't touch him. So my only option to defend that horse without doubling up my pawns is to say no castles. No castles for me. We're doing it. We're doing it the hard way. We're connecting our rooks the good old-fashioned style with no castles. So I didn't feel comfortable about it, but I know that if we're playing an open game where we've got a lot of trades going on, maybe we can trade a couple other pieces. Eventually I'm going to want my king more towards the center of the board to play pawn games with, and this puts me one turn accelerated in that endgame scenario, perhaps. So maybe there's a silver lining with it if we get there. He opts now. He pushes a rook up one just because I know he's going to double it up. I don't want him to double it up, so I am opting to push my queen over to the side, attacking the rook and attacking this pawn as well. So if he chooses to double up, then he's hanging this guy. So I'm hoping that by me going here, it will push his other rook back there, and then I won't have to worry about it as much. But he doesn't give a shit about this pawn. It is literally the most worthless pawn on the field right now. It is isolated on the far side, going up against two pawns. It hasn't moved at all. He's got nothing invested in it. There's no good way for him to defend it. And if I take it, I am putting my queen essentially out of the game, where it cannot do any impact on anything whatsoever. It is literally the most important piece. It's not even really worth a pawn at this point in the game. So he decided he didn't give a shit, which is probably correct. It's probably correct. I responded just by taking it. I figured I'm already up one pawn when I had my horse jump over there and take it. So I'm already up one pawn. There's very threatening things going on here. If he takes, then I take, and yeah, I guess he's got a couple other pieces looking at stuff. But he's either one piece or one positional move away from having anything immediately threatening. So I figure I've got the +1 pawn advantage. Let's take this second pawn advantage, and if I have to run it right back and play defense again, just like I did with the horse when I took it and then jump back, then I'm up 2 pawns. And 2 pawns is pretty significant. Plus, with his double isolated pawns, it's kind of like being up 3 pawns. Sort of. It's just, I chose material over position, and it probably was not smart, because I'm going to start feeling the pain from all of that. So he moves his queen up. It might look pretty unintimidating. Before he was attacking this piece with where it was, which might not look like much, but if he were to take that piece, I couldn't have taken it back. Unless I took it with the horse, to which then he's got this pawn over here for free, and then my rook is forced to defend and babysit this little pawn over on the side as well. So he actually... He really should. Well, he can't take this pawn yet. I forgot my queen's still over here. I haven't moved it down yet. So I guess that was enough reason for him to get off of that. Later, that becomes more important. I'm thinking ahead of myself. So he goes down here. What he's really doing is just identifying this square. No other squares this queen can move to from there are effective. It's not like it's defending anything significant at that point. He's just identifying down here, which will force my king to retreat to one of these 2 squares, and that will allow him to make this opportunity trade over there, be a little bit more superior for him, and then he can rush right on back, put me in check, and I've got all this open crap, and it's just ugly and hideous, and start to get some of his material back. So the only thing I can really do is move my horse over, my rook over here to defend against that, so he can't plop down right there. I could have actually dropped my queen down here, but I figure I'm probably going to have to run my queen all the way back at some point to this square so that I can start to get back over here, back into playing the game. So if I move my queen down to here, I mean, yeah, without having a rook there, you know, if the rook was still sitting here, I can't do that with that piece there. So I figure I'll activate the extra piece, and I'm eyeing this square so I can pin his bishop as well. If I can pin his bishop, great. I have zero chance of taking either one of those pieces with it, but maybe the pin will allow me a little bit of time to maneuver around and get comfortable again, and then get a chance, give me a chance to use my two-pawn advantage. And he's just going balls to the wall at this point. He knows that this horse has a lot of pressure on him. He knows that I'm not really safe, but because of just the fact that my pieces aren't even playing, they're all over the place, not doing anything. He does have this nice little wall going on. His king security isn't really, it's not really bad. I mean, he's obviously nice and sound, so if he's thrusting these pawns up here, it's not really making him that much weaker, but it does give me quite the additional scare as well. If he pushes up there and I take, obviously he can just take right back. There's a nice open file on this side for me at least, but it just further reduces some of the pieces in defense that I can possibly have over here too. Should trades like that happen over here, it allows this pawn and this pawn to come barreling down and start attacking towards the middle as well, and just creating quite a lot of havoc. His bishop is still there, both of his rooks are barreling down, all of his pieces are staring at me, and it's not good. I don't like it. Look away. I need a flashbang. And now I complete my pin that I mentioned a couple turns ago, and he continues to thrust after me now, getting a little bit of extra support. So when his pawn goes over there and we play trading games, he'll still end up having his pawn on a very threatening, pressure-inducing square. And I need to kind of address it. I don't really know what I can do. I can't afford to push up and attack his queen. I mean, I guess I could for one turn. I can attack his queen, but he'll just put me in check with either one of these two pieces, as I'm no longer defending the horse, and then this rook is kind of up for grabs from one of them, and there's nothing I can do about that actually. So if I go after his queen, he puts me in check. King has to go. It doesn't really matter where the king goes, honestly. They're all bad because he just takes this free rook and then maybe gets check afterwards anyway. I can't really afford that. If I move this horse anywhere else, then he has this square for free. Well, not anymore because of the pin. So I'm thinking, maybe I move it here, and then what else does it do? Going here doesn't help. Going here doesn't help. Yeah, it blocks line of sight, but then he just takes it. Blocking myself in over here doesn't really help. Blocking myself in over here, I guess, gets me some extra defense on that square. None of those are really good. I'm honestly thinking maybe this is the time for me to move my king away and break this pin over here. But it's not quite at critical mass yet. It's just a bad situation. I figure, you know what, this is my free turn to get my queen back into the game. She's still one turn away from being relevant into the game, as far as defending everything, but there wasn't really anything else I was going to do, so it was just the only opportunity that I had. But now he continues to push. I can maybe go here and chase his queen away. It does allow him some opportunities. Maybe he comes down here with the bishop, and even if I take his bishop for the pawn, his queen comes down defended by the pawn. Well, no, because then my horse is guarding it, and I'm okay. So I don't know. It's kind of scary. If I just take it overall, maybe he takes it with his queen, and then he's got pressure on both of these squares, and I don't really know how I respond with that. There's got to be something about it. I ended up deciding that I just needed to take it. I literally spent like a day and a half thinking about that move. Do I go here? Where does his queen go at that point? Maybe let's back up. Maybe if I go there, maybe his queen retreats here and puts critical mass on this piece. Maybe his queen retreats here and puts additional mass on that piece, even though, well, with my queen helping that out, it's not a factor yet. maybe he... I'm not sure. But this one I didn't really like. Knowing that he'd just be able to take that immediately, lose the defense on that guy, and I can't trade back because of the pin. But regardless, I ended up taking, and even though he's got the opportunity to take here, I must have saw something I could deal with as far as blocking it. Maybe, you know, block it off over here, reduce or removing the pin, and I'm still attacking the queen in response. But if I do that, then he can just... Well, he can put me in check, but I can take it with the horse. Maybe that's all it was. If I went over there, it does allow him to get this pawn, but then I get that pawn, and who knows where that really goes. I've got the open file, and I'm staring at his rook at that point. He doesn't necessarily have any other great attacks going, so maybe that's what I was thinking. But I took, and it ended up in reality he just took with his pawn. The whole point of him pushing it over there, I'm thinking really hard in this game, I guess, is all I'm trying to express. There's just a lot of different ways that the attacks can go, and the more and more I look at the board, the more and more attacks that I see that he has, and it was really scary. So I still have to deal with all the pressure on this horse. Where the hell am I going to put him? Well, I guess I kind of don't have another choice now. Now I have to put him over here and attack his queen. He can't immediately move his queen down there because I can take it. I guess if he wanted, no, he can't because the horse is guarding there. I think I'm okay for now. It does give him a couple of opportunities still to move it into one of those two spots. Hell, he could even move it right down here if he wanted, and then just extra reinforce. I don't know. Maybe he could consider pinning my horse to my rook, depending on where he wants to go, and then he'll get a discovered attack with the pawn if he wants to push over in that regard. The king has to move somewhere, pawn can take, and you know, if I end up responding by moving the horse, then he just takes my rook. You know, lots of deadly things he can do, but this horse has to go somewhere, and it's not going there. It's just yeah. What would happen if I moved over here? He might even just straight push the pawn. No, he just takes my pawn down there because I remove the pin of his bishop, and there's nothing immediately threatening that I'm taking with down here, and then I still have to deal with the bishop on the square attacking my rook. So yeah, horse couldn't go there. Horse can really only go here, and he responds by one, attacking the horse if my rook ever wants to move anywhere, and two, putting critical mass again on this pawn. We've addressed it a couple of times. If he goes down because of the pin, I can't take that pawn back. So the only thing I can do is defend it over here with my queen just in time. I do abandon the security of this pawn, but you know, maybe it's kind of the most useless pawn. Well, one of these two pawns is the most useless pawn in the game right now. I don't know which. So hopefully, there's no pin, so this would be the time he could do that. But maybe that it gives me just enough time to make up what I need to. It'll reduce the threat of all the crap down here. It does still kind of leave this open a little bit, not anymore. And lots of stuff. I'm up to 2 pawns, but he's definitely got the attacks going. And now at this point, he's been bouncing around with his queen a lot. You know, originally it was here, he moved it to here, and then he pushed some pawns up, and then he moved it somewhere else, and then he moved it back, and now he's moving it back, and his queen's made a lot of moves. And this one I don't think is, I don't know, he's reaffirming all of his pressure on this square, but now having a pawn defending it, and then the queen I can sacrifice, and the king can play cleanup. 3 pieces defending it versus 3 pieces attacking it, that's advantage on me, because my pieces suck more. And it only reaffirms, again, this pin on his bishop, so I'm not quite sure... Not quite sure what he's really looking at. Yeah, we see the computer thinks that that's worth him losing 3 pieces, or 3 points, which is equivalent of a piece. So there's something going on. And I decide that maybe it's got to be something related to this pawn. He's trying to push it. I don't want him to push it. Because he's got this pin back here, I think I'm going to do the impossible. The impossible! I think I'm going to open up this diagonal for him as a trap. If he takes it, I take his queen with check. And that will allow me some extra time to kind of figure things out. You know, if I get that and he wants to go there, well, then my queen is playing as well. Maybe I probably just move the rook over one more and then get my queen playing. If I'm able to do that, he goes over here, then my queen is definitely playing, and he's landlocked himself in by his own rooks. His only option at that point would be, queen trades, but well, no, his queen's gone. He can't queen trade when his queen's dead. So whatever. I give him this opening, this opportunity here. I understand it's very risky and it's kind of dicey, but it gives me something. It gives me something. So he responds by reinforcing this pawn, but more importantly, blocking this pin. So now I have to figure out a place for my rook to go, and plus this did help defend my knight over here, knowing that if he didn't take it, my rook is going to have to move, and if my rook is moving, he was undefended. So now my rook's got a couple options, literally a couple of options. Maybe no, because his bishop just takes. Like it's not very sound. So I end up just moving up one square because I want to stay on this line is what I'm really more concerned about. That's pretty much it. I just want to stay on that line, and it's just ugly. So he continues to further push these pawns now. He's just going to mess up all the defense that I have. Again, I can't take with that pawn, so it forces me to take with this guy, which is defending my horse, and it's also impeding this guy from moving down the field as well. It does, however, reinitiate this pin. And the computer just really seems to not like his position. This whole game, I've been up in material, and the computer has said that white has the better, or has the losing position, even though he's been dominating this whole game, really. He pushes up this other pawn, and, if I take, he pushes down. I guess maybe I could take there, but then he follows up by taking it with the queen and is attacking both of my pieces. It also gives him a nice enticing square to get some checks in with some defenses going on. It's plus if that happens and goes down here and I have to take, then there's nothing guarding this pawn as well. So I'm not sure if taking is the right opportunity, but I really can't let him push. Because then I'm running all over the place. At least it would landlock the pawns a little bit. So maybe, if anything, he would push with this bishop, and then he worries about taking this guy, since he's got all this pressure in the world on this pawn. So it's just I think I have to take it. It puts me in a sticky situation. All of these are sticky. At least I'm attacking the queen in response. So I'm going to force him to make some kind of move, but he's just going to respond by straight taking this guy. So he's again keeping all of the pressure he's got on this. He hasn't removed its defender yet, but now he's opened up some space here. And what I think I didn't see, I don't think I saw that there was an attack on this rook at the time. When I moved this up here, obviously he pushed, and I'm just like, oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I think I have to. Nothing was really good. I don't think I realized that gives him an opportunity now to take my rook for free, and there's nothing I can really do about it. If I want to go down here and attack his queen, he doesn't care. If I want to go down here, for why? I don't know. He just takes it, puts me in check. Or actually, rather, he would take it, put me in check with that, and then take that, and I lose the game. I do have a very enticing square going over here and attacking these two guys, but if I go there, yeah, maybe that looked good. Maybe I think he wouldn't want to take that because it looks like it's defended, and it looks like, it gives me a nice opportunity. But if I opt to go that route and I sit there with the knight, he just takes my rook, and then what? I take rook and he takes horse. His queen's still sitting here. It doesn't work out. So the only thing I can really do is put him in check. If you're down and you've got a lot of pressure on you and you can't really make a play, I'll put him in check. I'll force his king to move. It gets my queen back into the action, and maybe depending on where he goes, you can make a couple extra moves, adjust the position a little bit, maybe make some trades and alleviate the pressure. If he goes here, then I could bring my horse down here, get a discovered attack. Well, no, he still just takes it. If he goes over there, this square is guarded, this square is guarded. Obviously, these would be guarded by the king. But I could go down here, which will put him in check again, and then that way it'll at least connect my rook and my queen, so I can move the horse safely at that point. So that's a thought. If he wants to go over here, which is what he ends up doing, is going over to that side, it doesn't give me a whole lot of opportunity to attack him directly. Obviously, I can't go here to connect my rook to save it, which would be great. You know, going down here doesn't particularly do anything for me now. It no longer puts him in check. The horse doesn't have a good square to move. Sorry, I'm trying to hold back a yawn. But I do have here. What does this square really do for me? It puts him in check. We could trade queens, which obviously if we trade queens, that saves my rook. But he could put his rook over here, defend it, and attack all of these pieces at the same time. Well, if he ends up just putting his rook here, that's fine. I take his queen anyway. He takes my queen. I can't take his rook yet, but I don't care if I can't take his rook yet, because my free rook is no longer free. And at that point, my horse is then able to win the game with a fork. So it looked like this was just fine. He's going to have no other option other than take my queen, unless he wants to go back and forth and just play perpetual check, which I probably at this point would have been okay with. I hate draws. Hate them. I'll never draw unless I'm really, really down. I guess that's that. I left him no choice. It's an offer he couldn't refuse. He has to take the trade. I'm able to save my free rook, and thank God I was able to get my queen back from literally the abyss. She was out there doing nothing. I found just enough time to get her back into relevance with a check. The check allowed him to not take advantage of the time and the space and the attacks that he had. So at this point, I'm looking okay. I've eliminated a lot of the pieces, and now my two-pawn advantage is starting to look much better. Without the heavy threat of the queen bearing down on me, these doubled rooks are no longer really a threat because my pawn is defending it. He still has some shenanigans he could try with this guy, but he's going to need to get some extra defense over here. His bishop isn't going to help in that regard. And I'm going to have two rooks and a pawn to be able to deal with it. So I think I finally feel okay. I think I finally was able to stave off enough of his attacks. He goes after to attack my rook. Or not my rook. Why do I keep switching rooks and knights at this point? He doesn't really have anything to do, so he decides that it's just time to start attacking undefended pieces. And you know, once obviously at this point we got the trade of the queens going, I'm thinking more just put him in trades, and if we can eliminate some of these rooks, that'll further give me more advantage here. And he opts to attack my piece, which at the time I don't think I realized it, but then once I saw that this was my plan initially to trade rooks, realized, holy crap, his flight square was there, and his rook was blocking off here, but now he blocked off his flight square, and my horse is taking this other one, and that's just straight checkmate. So it came out of the blue. There was quite a significant amount of pressure from way back, you know, sitting around here. Things are looking really dicey, and he's got lots of great attacks. He's got lots of coordination. My pieces are all off and over in the middle of nowhere because I valued material over position. But thankfully, I was able to stave it off just long enough. Maybe there were some other things he could have done. Maybe there were some other things I could have done. He did make a couple of very quiet moves with his queen that I think gave me the time that I needed to be able to, yeah, I mean, there's two moves right there that I don't really know. Like, we could have just done one of them, right? I know he wanted to identify the attack on that pawn, but I was able to counteract that, and that really helped me out. Getting that one extra turn kind of saved my bacon. This, it worked out, but man, it did not work out as intended, that's for sure. And it just kind of got more dicey from there, but I was able to eliminate the problem and stay alive. So thank you all for watching. It was a tough game where I felt on the ropes for the majority of it, and I was greedy trying to take pawns that meant nothing in the game whatsoever, and it's not always the material, but it looks like I was able to bad example, right? I'm trying to say don't take free material if it puts you out of position, but I still won, so I don't know. It's just it was a tough game, so I'm looking forward to some more, and thank you all for watching. Take it easy. Catch you later, guys. Peace.